My name is Paul Lewis. I'm a professional videographer. Today I'm going to be speaking about the lenses available for video and why I use them. The kit lens that comes with your camera is a great place to start exploring video. However, very early on you're likely to find yourself demotivated and frustrated by the limitations of the lens. Kit lenses tend to be a variable aperture lens, which means that as you zoom in through their focal range, your lens is going to close down. Aperture and focal length are the main contributors to the depth of field characteristics of your image. The cinematic look that we all love and try to achieve in our work is a combination of the widest possible aperture and the longest possible focal length of your lens. If you were to zoom the lens in and your lens will close down, you're really handing off a lot of that creative control to your equipment, which is never ideal. The specialist demands of professional video work often require a dedicated lens. Cine lenses typically cost more than the equivalent photography lens, and this made them unaffordable for most videographers. Companies like Canon really paved the way with the introduction of video on their Pro Body, the 5D Mark II, for videographers to have access to pro glass at all levels of production. Prime lenses typically have a wider maximum aperture than zoom lenses, making them ideal for situations where you have full control over your subject and your scene. The separation of foreground and background in video work is really important, as often the backgrounds are going to be chaotic and messy and very, very distracting for your audience. When selecting lenses for video work, I personally look for three key elements: wide maximum aperture, large textured control grips, and then for my zoom lenses, they have to have a constant maximum aperture. The location of the focus ring is really important for video. Often kit lenses have it located at the very front of the element, and what you'll find is as you're trying to focus, sometimes your fingers are creeping into the edge of your frame and spoiling the shot for you. I personally look for a large textured grip that's easy to find and located about a quarter of the way down the lens. Lens hoods are also a great option for preventing the accidental stray hairs and fingers from creeping into shot. Wide maximum apertures really allow you to take full advantage of the available light, resulting in a lower ISO and an increased foreground to background separation for that cinematic look. Image stabilization really is an important element on the longer focal lengths. Any contact you have with the lenses translates to visible shaking and vibration in your final image. Cine lenses will generally cost more than their equivalent pro-level photography lens. However, Cine lenses offer increased ergonomics and specialized functionality for when recording a moving image. Some of the key differences between a dedicated Cine lens and a photography lens would be the raised tooth system found on both the aperture ring and the focus ring. On large productions, you often have an additional crew member who can remotely control these for you. The aperture blades of a Cine lens typically won't have a fixed, clickable f-stop position. This allows you to have a smooth, gradual transition between exposure values without an evident flickering or jumping of exposure in your final video. The jumping or flickering of the exposure changes can be very distracting for an audience, as we don't have everyday experiences of light behaving in this way. A smooth, gradual change between exposure values is much more naturalistic to how we see the world. When I got my first professional lens, my work changed instantly for the better. Not because I learned some new technique, but just simply because I was no longer being dictated to by the limitations of my lens.